It seems like lately there's a pattern or a common thread in some of the texts that we've been looking at lately. It's distractions. A few weeks ago, we were looking at the story of Mary and Martha hosting Jesus in their home. And you remember, Mary sat patiently and deliberately at Jesus' feet and listened to him, while Martha was, what? Do you remember? Distracted by many things. Jesus lifts up Mary as the exemplar in that situation. Last week, we talked about prayer. And Jesus teaches about prayer and the importance of the persistence of prayer. We remember that prayer is the intentional act of connecting with God. In other words, cutting through the distractions of the day to make time to commune with God. We've also talked some about lately about modern society and the abundance of distractions all around, at our fingertips even. About how, yes, it's good to have information at our fingertips, but having that also makes us prone to distraction from what's important. Distracts us from nature, from each other, and so much else. Without even realizing it, each of us is at risk of missing what matters in life. Okay, now, despite my railing about social media seconds ago, I did come across a meme that I wanted to share that really, I think, drives home my main point. Here we have a man staring into a beautiful mountainside, and all he can think is, am I providing enough value to my shareholders? Think about it. He is immersed in God's beauty and creation. If there were ever a time for tranquility or peace or communion with God, it would be here. But why can't he do that? He's too distracted by something else. In this case, the pursuit of money. I saw another little video that I thought was insightful this week. There was an old man, and he was reflecting on his life, and somebody asked him, what's your biggest regret in your whole life? And he went back to a particular time in his life, and he said, my biggest regret is that I took too much PTO, too much time off during a crucial business cycle. And it's the same kind of thing. Some distractions are timeless, as true in Jesus' time as in ours. And one of those is money, a subject that Jesus and the Gospels contemplate quite a bit. Even when I'm talking with my kids, if we're in a heated argument, I have the power to end almost every argument, as long as I had gone to the bank recently. Just pull out $1. Conversation over. The point being that they're conditioned already to want to pursue money, and that whatever was bothering them is less important than $1 in their hand. But of course, as you get older, the allure of money, it stays, but it also is different. I think when we're younger, we want to spend money on the cool stuff we can get. In fact, yesterday, we took the kids to the new Lego store in Friendly. Have you guys seen that? They have quite a display. Even the sign makes you want to go inside. It brings you in. And so, of course, we overpaid for these little Lego sets for them to do. But as you get older, I think it's less about the things that you can buy and more about the perceived freedom that money allows. The idea that we can one day attain enough money to no longer have to worry. That seems like the big allure of money as we get older. Well, in the story today, Jesus is speaking to a crowd. And at this point, Jesus is gaining credibility. There's a significant crowd. People want to hear what he has to say. And in this instance, one man in particular gets Jesus' attention. There's something heavy on this man's heart, something that he cannot let go of. It's a family dispute. So somehow he gets Jesus' attention and he says, "Teacher," and Jesus is looking at him, presumably. "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me. Tell him I deserve some. It's only fair." And of course, Jesus is not interested in answering his question, at least not directly. This is another pattern that we may be noticing with Jesus. He looks beneath the surface of a question and tackles the essence of it. Another way of putting it, Jesus is less interested in the dispute that the man names and more interested in the state of the man's soul. We don't actually know. In fact, we can infer maybe that this man isn't rich. We don't think about that. He tells the parable of the rich fool, but we don't know if this man himself is rich or how rich he is, because that's not the point. The point here is about the man's soul. So Jesus tells him, be on guard against greed. Life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. And then he tells a parable that we've now gone over. There's a rich man whose land produces abundantly, so abundantly that his barns, plural, multiple barns, are full, and the man decides that he will knock them down and build new ones so that he can store even more, that he can have even more. One of the questions that naturally arises to me as I'm reading this is, doesn't he already have enough? Or the natural question that follows, is there an amount that's enough? The man rationalizes this decision to build bigger barns, and he does so in this sort of bizarre, I guess we could call it soliloquy. He says, once I have those big barns built, I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. A couple of things about this. First, the man falls into a pattern we've all fallen into. It's not necessarily related to wealth, but it goes something like this. One day, when things are different in this way, then I will be happy. The man longs for this joy, this freedom, and he doesn't understand that right now he has what he needs for that feeling of freedom and joy. Why is it so hard to appreciate what we have while we have it? Another observation. What do you think is going to happen when that man builds those bigger barns? He's going to fill them up. Well, then what's going to happen? He's going to have more crops that don't fit in those. and then it's going to be the same thing all again. There is a Buddhist teaching that says of desire that it's like salt water. The more you drink it, the thirstier you become. But you get the idea. This is the man's motivation. Both the man in the crowd in the dispute with his brother and the rich fool himself. They want that feeling of freedom. They want that feeling that they can finally relax. They want that feeling where they finally have enough. Maybe they want freedom of schedule, or freedom of obligations to others, or freedom of worry. And they believe that money can buy these things. If I only had this amount, then I would know freedom. God speaks to this man in the parable and calls him a fool. You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you. In other words, you will die, and all this stuff that you have, what good will it be when you're gone? This alleged freedom you strive toward, it will come and go. But the kingdom of God consists of that which is eternal. The lesson continues. So it is for those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God. I wanted to share an interesting insight that comes from the founder of Methodism, John Wesley. He has a pretty famous sermon on money, and that's what it's called, On Money. And it's fairly well known, at least among his sermons, and he divides it into 3 parts. And oftentimes, when preachers talk about Wesley's sermon, they only talk about the 3 parts, but that misses it. The 3 parts are gain all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. But when you actually look at the sermon, you see that the point that he wants to make is in the subtext, not within those headings themselves. So, for example, I want us to consider some of what he says in the gain all you can section. Now, it's funny reading these sermons from so long ago because a lot of it's dated. So I want you to know that, I'm not sure I literally agree with everything he says, but I agree with the spirit of what he says, and you'll see what I mean. So he says, gain all you can, but most of the sermon is about the caveats of gain all you can. It's not a sermon about work hard and here's how you make money. It's a sermon about gain all you can, but when you do so, you ought not, and then there's a long list of stuff that you ought not do. You ought not gain money at the expense of life, meaning physical health. So don't work so much that you can't sleep. Don't labor in a way that exceeds your strength and risks you getting hurt. And don't expose yourself, here's that this part that speaks to his time, to harmful working conditions, and he names arsenic and lead, which I guess was a concern at the time. Don't expose yourself to that just so you can gain money. Don't gain money by hurting your own mind. Don't engage in sinful trade. He says, don't defraud the king. Don't cheat or lie. Don't entangle with company who will destroy your soul. Do you guys ever watch Mad Men? Avoid toxic work environments that favor profit at the expense of the humanity of others. Don't gain money by hurting our neighbor, by taking advantage of their addiction. He says don't engage in pawnbroking, which he defines as buying things from people in vulnerable situations, paying less than what the thing is worth. And he even talks about being honest about the market price of goods so as to avoid what I interpret as something like monopolies. Business ethics matter. He goes on and on. He doesn't think we should sell things that can cause harm to people's health. And he thinks that there should be heavy regulation on such items. Don't gain money by gratifying the pride of life. He's pretty extreme. Don't sell things to men that they don't need. He was against luxury items and things that appeal to people's vanity. You can see how intense he was about this. But you get the idea. The principle behind all of this is that the acquisition of money is secondary to what matters in life. Treating people fairly, playing our part in helping society as a whole. He's not saying gain money no matter what. He's saying gain what you can with the condition that love be held higher. Or to be even more direct, to be rich with God requires limiting how one gains money. Love of self and God and neighbor will always take priority. What I really want you to see today is that a life rich with God is one that is rich with connection. Left unchecked, money can alienate us if the barns get too big and if our desire to grow them dominates us. If we spend too much time and energy building new ones, if we only care about ourselves, then we've lost what truly makes us rich. I love that scene in the classic movie Citizen Kane, the breakfast table montage. As time goes by and Charles Kane gets richer and richer, the table between him and his wife grows longer and longer. He's too obsessed with gaining more and more, and all the while his relationships crumble. The man in Jesus' parable obsesses on amassing enough resources so that he never has to worry again. What he believes to be true freedom. Well, what if being rich in God means having complete confidence that no matter what happens, you will always have somewhere to turn? In the same way that the rich man believes he will always have enough money, the faithful Christian knows in his or her heart that they'll always have enough love in their lives. That is true freedom. That is richness in God. So just take a second and take note of who is with you right now, who is near you in the front and in behind, and be thankful because these are your neighbors. This is your family. They are God's grace to you. They are worth your investment. They are worth your energy. In and through them, God will save your soul so that together we may be rich in His kingdom. Amen.